Good evening. It's good to see everybody here tonight. We will move on to item 2, our City Council work session at 6:30.
Receive quarterly report from Police Department.
Chief Cato?
We're going to have our quarterly report. Remember, as we go through this report, these are the crime stats up until September 30th of this year. So this doesn't include October, even though the month is already over. So we'll look at the year-to-date crime stats to September 30th there. We have had six homicides this year. Of those, one has been justified. It was a pizza delivery driver who was going to be, someone was trying to rob him, and he shot the suspect. So, and then one of the others remains unsolved. Every other one has someone in jail for it already, or has been cleared by an exceptional arrest, like the or justification, like the pizza delivery driver who did that. Sexual assaults, trending about the same as it was this time last year. Robberies are right at last year. Last year was a high number. The robberies are something that we've been experiencing Dallas County wide. The increase in robberies, when I meet with the other chiefs and talk to them, look at the crime stats here over the last few years. We look at 17 to 16 sexual assaults are right on track. Robberies just slightly under, but they're up significantly from our 5-year average, about 23 crimes higher than what we've been averaging over the last 5 years. But last year and this year, the robberies have been an issue, as I said, all over Dallas County. The people that we arrest, we arrested a group back in September, right at the end of September 30th, actually, and they had hit in Cedar Hill, DeSoto, Dallas, Irving, Grand Prairie, and us. So they were just making the rounds up and down the freeway, and so it's something we're aware of, and we're trying to keep track and share information, keep track of the trends there, and share information with the other departments as we come along. Also, aggravated assaults. So as we look at our crime numbers, overall, property crime is actually trending down, and violent crime is trending slightly up. Aggravated assault is up from the 5-year average, but it's just up slightly from last year. And then burglaries are actually down significantly. When you look at our uniform crime report from just 2012 to 2016, we finished 2016. 2016 was a 30-year low of number of offenses per 1,000 population, but and we're right now under that, even with our slight uptick in the aggravated assaults and the robberies. You look at our 30-year history there. Our peak was in 1987. It's the highest recorded crime rate ever in Mesquite. So 110 offenses per 1,000 population. Staffing is another big issue we've been addressing. We're just about full everywhere except for the police officer ranks. We're down 16. We have one academy class in session right now with 7 people. We're going to start a second class December 6th to run concurrent with this one. Right now we're looking at having 5 people in that class, so we're chipping away at that. We still have some, we're shooting for our next academy class to be in April. As this one graduates, it's in right now, the 7th class graduates in January. We'll be giving the test in January and February and getting candidates to hopefully start in April. So we'll still run 2 concurrent academy classes. We made some changes in these with the help of human resources to go to the Civil Service Board, and we've got a couple of changes that I think are going to pay dividends going forward. One of those is eliminating the college requirement for somebody who has 3 years of active duty military. We had lots of active duty folks inquiring in the past, but they didn't have any college because they went straight in the military from high school. And that makes us competitive with Garland. Garland has a military exemption. Dallas has a military exemption. The people we compete with for those candidates all had military exemptions, and now we do. And I think we'll see a share of those folks coming. The other thing we did was HR actually has hired a full-time civil service recruiter, and I'm very optimistic that she's going to be able to help us going forward about getting the message out to the right places to increase our our candidate pool. While we've experienced people coming to signing up for the test was one number, what actually showed up to take it was another. Usually about half of the number who actually signed up turned in their stuff and qualified to sit for the exam, and we'd have a number of those fail the civil service exam. And so we end up with a much smaller pool of potential candidates than what first signed up. And but I think with the addition of the civil service recruiter, we're going to see more of those people. We're going to have more follow-up, more contact with those folks. We're going to see more people who sign up, get all the way down to sit for the exam, and end up in the applicant pool.
Chief, real quick, could you touch on, I know it was a little controversial, but the transfer program, just how'd that go? How many applicants did we get?
Well, the lateral transfer, that was another thing that we did, yes, sir. We created a lateral transfer program, got that approved through the meet and confer process with the association. Right now we have 5 laterals on board, 6 laterals on board. We have one more lateral who's been approved. He's going to start on December 6th with the others. And we have 2 more laterals, I believe, in the process. So we should end up with 9 laterals total. So the lateral program is an excellent opportunity to get experienced officers. I do think there needs to be a balance of those. My goal would be somewhere between 25 and 30% for the people that come on board or laterals, because there is some value in us instilling the Mesquite way, the Mesquite ethics and integrity into those folks, brand new right in the academy, and so building folks like that. But we have 4 from Dallas, 1 from Lancaster, and 1 from Terrell right now, Terrell PD that are on the department. So we have 6 laterals just in the last year. So I think we'll see that number remain steady because we have a steady pool of applicants for that.
I think that's a good goal. I'm going to kind of put you on the spot for a second. When you're here November of 18, what do you forecast the police openings to be? Based on our current rate, are we closing this number down? Is it staying put? Is it getting bigger? Based on what you know is coming down the pipeline with retirements and age and all those factors, what do you think we're going to be at November of 18?
Well, absolutely, I want to be full. I think we're going to close the gap more. I think we just got those 2 big things. We got the lateral program improved in January of last year, but we didn't get the military exemption until October. So we got approved October 1st. We gave a test October 13th. So we hadn't had a chance to advertise that. I really believe we're going to close that gap significantly once we get the military out, get the word out to the military bases that there's a waiver of college hours if they have 3 years of active duty. I think that's going to be a big part in selling for us. We've also gone to a couple of universities directly for their career days. I think we're going to start seeing more dividends there. We're going to more aggressively pursue the colleges in the area, the community colleges. UNT Dallas, we went to there. We're going to go to UTA, UT Dallas, all the area colleges that have criminal justice programs. We're going to be targeting them with more emphasis. So I think we're going to be closing that gap significantly between November next year. This is our projects from last year. Everything's been completed except for those 3. The online reporting software, that couldn't be installed until we got the Spillman on board. And Spillman come on board, the delay instead of May, ended up coming on board in August. So we had to get that fully implemented, and now we're doing the online, getting the online software going. The other one is the 5 mobile monitoring systems. We're going to have these. These are mobile camera trailers. We're going to have those trailers ready for this month for the holiday season. We should get those tomorrow, right? We should get those by Wednesday. We should get those. But they're going to loan us 2. If ours aren't built out yet, they're going to loan us a couple so we can put them out. Mobile license plate reader system. That's what LPR stands for. It's being built out now as well. The same vendor that has those camera trailers has the LPR system trailer that they're building out for us. For the 2017-18 projects, the public service professionals, that's actually in the budget as a crime scene enhancement program because they're going to be taking fingerprints, and those the listing has been posted, has been put out, the job posting, and candidates have signed up, and they're going to start interviews for that. So it's about halfway done. The crime scene mobile response vehicle, that's still in the process. So you can see the status on some of these. But the big one is the digital case filing program. That one we're also looking for to enhance our ability to fill the to meet the Michael Morton Act, which is a state law that requires us to post all information with the case, all videos, all notes and everything. And most of our evidence is digitized now. The county, Dallas County, has a electronic case filing system. That's going to be a big one for us in creating efficiencies and getting those cases in a timely manner, meeting our deadlines there. The other stuff is just in the process. It's going to take a while there. We're just beginning those projects. The next slide. We're going to see phase one of the major egress monitoring system, and the big one that I'm looking forward to is NIBIN. The NIBN, the National Integrated Ballistics Information Network. That's the computer tracking program for shell casings. If you think of fingerprints for shell casings, that's what this will do. We'll be able to take, if we go to a scene where there's been random gunfire or even a crime scene where there's shell casings there, we can take those shell casings, enter them into this computer database, take a digital image and enter that there and compare it to all the shell casings that's been recovered at other crime scenes to making those links to gun crime. Because I believe we're going to see what we have seen, my experience has seen in my other department was we start seeing the patterns develop of where the guns are coming from, who has them. The same people are involved in crimes across multiple jurisdictions. That's what's going to be the ability to help us there. Dallas has a system like this, and so does the DPS in Garland. And we've been dependent on them entering our weapons, our shell casings in their system, and that takes time to get a priority. We're going to have our own, so we'll be able to do that much more efficient. I'm very optimistic that it's going to help us clear up more of our gun crime. There's just a snapshot of our major projects and the level of completion of those right now. And then I'll take any questions.
Questions for the chief?
Chief, is
Be
there?
happy to. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Chief. Is there a way to get the on the ag assault numbers? Is there a way to get a breakdown of how many of those were strangers versus people that knew each other?
Yes, sir. We track those. We break them down by that. We break them down also by family members, domestic violence versus non-domestic violence, and it's a significant number of ours are domestic violence. So really, we can't. There's no deployment strategy we can put it that's going to prevent that. They occur in homes or in apartments or in places where relatives are in close proximity to one another. Some of the others we can, of course, deploy around because they're going to be places, alcohol establishments, convenience stores, apartment complexes where we've had issues, things like that, motels, things like that. So we can deploy around those, and we do break down that data.
Yeah, no, I think that would be a valuable piece of data, or at least just a footnote in these charts going forward, because I think that there's a tendency at times for folks to see in the numbers what they want to see or what they want the narrative to be, and I think that it's when you begin to break those down like that, it's not saying it's not a crime. It's just it's a different kind of crime and a different level of concern that should be in the community.
Yes, sir.
So,
Yes, sir.
all right.
Charles, any questions? Mr. Burrows? Mr. Archer?
I do have a few. Chief, first of all, thank you for the work that you and your department are doing. I continue to believe that the Mesquite Police Department is the best department in the state of Texas. And there's been some rough crimes that have happened that your guys have done a fantastic job getting those bad guys, so I commend that as well. Any thoughts that you had, with short of sharing useful intelligence, obviously, but with some of the armed robberies and some of the violent crimes that we've seen here and there, do you have any ideas of why we're seeing more of that, or is it a mix of things, or is any particular bad characters in Dallas coming in and hitting us and getting out with good access to freeways, or just any thoughts you might have?
Sure, there's several reasons. As I looked at those statistics, a portion of those, about between 15 to 20% of those robberies each and every month are going to be from our retail district. They're going to be shoplifts gone bad. So when you think of robbery, you think somebody going in with a gun. A significant number of ours every month are those where I go in and steal something. I'm shoplifting. As I'm exiting the store, the loss prevention confronts me. When I get confronted, I don't want to give up the property, and I don't want you to catch me, so I'll fight. When you use physical force in the commission of a theft, that's a robbery. And so we have a portion of those robberies. So as Mr. Noche was saying about the aggravated assaults, they don't tell the whole picture. We have several of those that are drug robberies, a number of those every month. That I'm a drug dealer, I'm going to buy drugs, we know that, and they get robbed of their money and any other property, their cell phone, is still a robbery, so we count that. So when you engage in behavior that's risky, you take a risk on getting hurt yourself. The other portion, there's a significant portion that bothers me. The group I talked about that hit us in September, they hit us 4 offenses, 3 on the Saturday and 1 on the Sunday. We got in a car chase, chasing the Lancaster, had the SWAT team out there. They were barricaded, had to tear gas an attic and drag this guy out. It was a mess. But when we got that guy, he had been arrested in Cedar Hill in June for committing robberies, arrested in DeSoto for committing robberies in July. In August, he was arrested in Dallas. And so early in September, he was arrested. He should have been in jail. He had 8 robberies, and he was allowed post bond and get out of jail. He should never have been out of jail to committing robberies in Mesquite. So what I did is I took that information to the district attorney's office, and they put those cases together, because what they get arrested for, what they actually have a case filed for, is 2 different things. What I found out is they only had 2 cases on him, but these 8 things in the works. So they revoked his bond and put out a warrant for him. Now he's still on the loose, but wherever he is, he's robbing somebody. So, because that's what he does. So
Have we been able to, with some of the robberies, like, say, restaurants or retail places, have we been able to offer some of those staffs any type of useful information or some recommendations that maybe they're not doing, like maybe cameras, or even, perhaps considering hiring some private security to tone some of that down some?
Well, our business robberies are a much smaller part of our overall robberies. Individual robberies are still the biggest. And we had a couple this weekend where people were going to make deals on OfferUp to purchase or one of the other online apps. And we have this exchange zone right out front, and they still won't go do that. So we have a very aggressive public education campaign. We have a place for people to do those, and yet folks will still go out in the middle, 1 o'clock in the morning, to buy an iPhone 10. It's a $1,000 phone for $250, and we wonder whether it wasn't a good deal, wonder why they got robbed, because they don't make good choices. The businesses, though, most of the businesses do have, the big chain businesses have usually pretty good video. We had we've had a couple of robberies at a restaurant. They hit us here, and they hit Garland as well. So we believe it's the same 2 people doing that, but we haven't been able to identify them. The video just didn't give us anything that identified them. There's no vehicle or suspect information. We do have a business, we do give Crime Watch information to businesses, and we can do security surveys for them. We have that service available. Some folks take us up for that, and others don't. Anybody who gets robbed, we do talk to the management, because they have to provide us with the video and things. So yes, we do make that available, sir.
And I'm thinking about probably stores like the one in the military that's been hit. I think it's a Family Dollar, something that's been hit multiple times over the last few years. If there's anything we can help those owners or management to understand that there's some things they could be doing differently to allow that to happen a little bit less on their end, but perhaps some education. That's kind of where my thought process was.
Okay.
How are we doing on the PSOs? I believe that we budgeted for, that you had said we'd be able to go out and do some of the taking reports and whatnot. And I just ask that because I know that there's times where our guys are having to take care of the bigger picture issues some nights or some days, and that resident that has something bad happen that's not a violent, crazy situation, to them they're still concerned. And so I'm just kind of curious how we're doing in terms of being able to those new positions to pick up some of that slack, so officers don't always have to go and take that report.
We haven't been able to get the PSOs to go out to answer calls yet. They've been doing crime scene stuff, but they haven't been going out and taking individual reports. They can take reports over the phone when they're working expediter, but we're still working through some of legal issues of having them go out and actually be the first responder to a crime that's occurred. Usually when an officer goes by, takes a report for a burglary, they don't have to stay and do fingerprints. The PSOs will come by the PSPs, actually, public service professionals will come by behind them and take the fingerprints. They've done tremendous work. We had one instance at Fenton Hyundai up here, the car dealership, where they had 22 vehicles burglarized, and one night they took a bunch of car batteries and things out of the cars. Our guys went up there, 2 of our PSPs went and took fingerprints. They got a hit, and they arrested 2 guys. They confessed all 22 of those, and so they cleared that, and they got some of the property back. So they're out there working, they're doing those things. We should not have significant waits. We have had a couple of instances where people have had significant waits, and we have to do better as far as supervisors monitoring those and staying on top of the active calls, because there's no reason for somebody to wait hours, no matter how busy. Somebody can go take the call. So we have to do a better job on the frontline supervision of making sure that nobody's waiting those inordinate amount of time.
Well, I'm delighted to hear about the new software that I think I understood you said that the shell casings, eventually we could be able to tie those to a lot of our residents who are concerned about the massive gunfire that sometimes takes place in their areas. That'll be good news to them. I applaud the work that your folks are doing every day, and I appreciate this tonight. I think this is very important for the rest of the council to be proactively involved in this dialogue and being connected to the concerns our residents have, and I'd like to see us do this on a monthly basis. But again, thank you for you and your folks doing a great job.
Yes, sir.
Chief, just thank your force for us. Your men and women putting themselves in harm's way, running towards danger to keep us safe, deserve our unending gratitude. The majority of my questions were in regards to staffing, and I apologize for interrupting your presentation, but you answered those. I want to brag on you. We are on pace for 2017 to be lower than 2016, which was a 30-year low. But the majority of that, and correct me if I'm wrong, seems to be us combating property crime really, really well. The concern I have is the uptick in violent crime, and most of the programs that we've been talking about, other than the ballistics fingerprinting, seems driven still to property crime. So is there anything that we can give you, resource, equipment, staffing, that would help us lower those violent crime uptick that we've seen?
Well, we have the 2 crime analysts that were approved in the budget last year. They're both on board. They're doing tremendous work. They're helping take all this information, all this data, and put it into packages, intelligence packages that folks can use. We are making some inroads in the violent crime fight. It's just that we can't. It's always a balance there, because 90% of all of our crime is property crime, and that impacts people's lives. If you have your television or things taken from your house, or your car's burglarized or stolen, and that's the only means to get to work, so we always try to look at where we can make the most impact. And we are looking at, we have a deployment team, for example, to target some of the high crime, the violent crime areas where we see a consistent pattern of offenses occurring. We can deploy officers, extra officers. We bring them on overtime. We focus them on those areas, and we go after those folks. The public education piece for reducing property crime has been the biggest one. The investment in the PSAs to get word out about lock, take, and hide, especially coming up here to the holiday season, is going to be very, very important. And we're seeing I've seen some of those come out. But the violent crime, it's really, people can do a lot of prevention if they just use good common sense. If you want to do those online app-driven deals where you're going to buy or sell property, don't go to some remote place. We have a place right here in front of the police station. If they won't meet you here, then you don't need to do business with them. And so we look at each thing from the place that the crime happens at, the people who are involved, and then what behaviors, if any, they were engaging in to put them at risk for that. When we do the analysis, we drill down to the most minute of detail. And I think we're going to see some inroads there. We're going to have to make sure that once we arrest folks, that they stay in jail. We're going to have to work in with the DA's office to follow up and make sure that whenever we catch somebody who's committing a crime of violence, that they stay in jail. There's a lot of decisions made outside of here, outside of the city of Mesquite, that it directly impact our ability to do our job. Managing the jail population, keeping that number down, so to manage the county's costs means they just release people from jail. We take them, we put them in, they find ways to give them personal recognizance bonds, or they give them low bonds and they bond out. That manages jail population, but as a direct consequence, those people are right back out committing crimes in our community again, in other communities that surround us. So we're the most visible We're the most accessible, the police are, so we take the brunt of the complaints and the abuse. But there's a lot of folks on the other end of the criminal justice system that need to do a better job of pulling on their end of the rope to make sure that once we do the hard work and get them in, that they make sure that they stay there.
Well said. And I don't have any other questions, but I did have a comment mostly for my colleagues here. We've put together the T25 program, and it's swelled to 47 different properties. And it has a lot of analytics about code and building violations, firing violations, and crime violations. I'd be curious about looking at those analytics and whether we could prioritize the properties that are reliably causing police to come out and causing violent crime, and
Yes, sir.
maybe giving it a different weight in those analytics to move these properties to the head of the list.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's just a comment for us to chew on. I appreciate what you do and thank your force for us.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Casper, one of the things I noticed actually in the T25 data that we've been getting is the number of service calls at all of those properties has decreased dramatically. So, it is kind of glove in hand, and I appreciate the comments of how we need to layer those and work on the priorities based upon that. So,
Nicholas? Thank you. One good or bad thing about going last is that most everyone said a lot of the things that I was thinking of as well, or asked and answered. So I won't try and be repetitive. I agree with Councilman Archer. I'd love to see a monthly briefing instead of a quarterly briefing. And it also allows the public to have that briefing as well to keep an understanding of the statistics and what's going on. I'm very much happy about the military waiver and the fact that that may help us get to our numbers. It looks like we're at 218 right now for sworn. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And based upon your encouragement that the waiver will kick in and allow us to bring in more qualified applicants, where do you think we would be by May, June of 2018? And I know it's speculative. I'm not trying to hold you to it. Just generally, where do you think we'll be at sworn by May or June of 2018?
Well, we'll get this class out of the academy. They've already counted in that 218 number, the 7 that are here. This next group of 5 or so, just because we put them in the academy doesn't mean they're going to make it through.
Sure.
And so I think we won't start our next class till April. So April, May, I think the biggest hope we have is to get some more of the laterals in and to get this class of 7. They should graduate in January. They should be off field training right in May. And they should actually be on the street. They should be on the street in time to make a real impact for the summer, because that'll be 7 more officers to spread out. Plus, the laterals that we get now will be off field training by then as well. So we can get these other 3 laterals. That'll give us 10 people hitting the streets done by May, end of April, 1st of May.
Well, I just on a practical. So the 7 already count as sworn.
Yes, because they're on the books.
Right. So absent the 7, right now we'd be at 211, but we're at 218 with those sworn. They all graduate, and then you're saying we have 5 more queued to go into the academy?
Yes, sir. Right now, 5 more to start on December 6th.
So their graduation would be, if they all succeeded,
It would be June.
June. So let's say they all 5, we have no retirements, that would put us at 223, and then you're saying about, what, 3, 4 laterals you would want to keep for your ratio?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And the thing is, the department grew. If you look at the history of the Mesquite Police Department, from 1983 to 1990, it doubled in size. And so we haven't doubled in size from 1990 to now. So there was this bubble of personnel. When I look at the roster, there's people that are eligible to retire, yes, but realistically, what their retirement would be based on the system we have with TMRS, a lifetime annuity based on your age, the formulas just really don't work out for folks right now. They'd have to stay a few more years. I think we're going to be beyond the retirement bubble for a couple of years.
Yes, sir. And that's it. I'll just concur with my colleagues. Thank you all for everything that y'all do. And I know you've had some tough crimes in the last 3 months since we saw you last, many of which that you've solved well. So thank you for that.
I want to extend my word of thanks to you, Chief, and the police department and your connection with the community, and these new programs that are coming out 24/7 and Take, Lock, and Hide, and appreciate those efforts that are taking place. How many bilinguals offers, are we seeing an increase there also with Hispanic officers, African-American officers, what the demographics look like in comparison with what our city is?
We have, in the current class, academy class, we have 3 females, which we only have 8 in the department now, so that's a significant number. One of those females is Caucasian, one is Hispanic, she's bilingual, one is Muslim, she's from Morocco, and she was in the Army, she was a translator. She speaks 5 languages, not Spanish. So she's going to learn, though. She said she can do it because she's a linguist.
Good.
But we have, as far as going forward, we're looking to get more diversity, particularly in the Spanish-speaking department. We're also, I met with the Dallas County Community College District about creating a program of more intensive Spanish training so we can get folks more proficient in Spanish here. We have 10 officers on the department who speak Spanish out of the 218.
Great.
Yes, sir.
And do you foresee any other projects coming up in the future that will help release more officers to get out in the streets?
As we move forward with this PSP, the Public Safety Professionals and Non-Sworn, we're working right now with them going out and taking fingerprints, relieving officers at crime scenes. We're working with them about assisting on the freeway. The freeways, we have 26 miles of freeway, and anytime there's a wreck on the freeway, there's significant traffic issues. The PSPs are going to go up there. We're getting them trained now to have a pickup truck. We can put flares and cones in, and instead of having 4 or 5 squad cars tied up on a freeway wreck, we can send this truck up there with 2 PSPs, and they can put the flare line and the cones, and they can manage traffic while one officer will work the accident itself. That should free up manpower over time. That's create an efficiency for us to get more officers available to answer calls and to work the neighborhoods without having to be tied up on the highway.
Okay.
That's one of the cornerstones of the PSPs for me, is getting them trained to get up on the highway to help us out on those. Because if you have a 635 has a wreck, you're going to tie up at least 4 squads, 4 cars with officers there at least. If it's rush hour, you're going to need more to manage that traffic. So if we can get the efficiency with 2 people with the truck and they can do all the flares and cones, excuse me, I think that will free up at least 3 of those officers, at least half those officers.
Thank you so much for your work. And the comment that was made earlier also about perhaps moving from a quarterly maybe to a monthly type of report that could come to the council in regards to what's happening out there, I really appreciated that. I think that would be a good idea. So thank you, sir.
Mayor, I had one more question I forgot to ask.
Certainly.
With Chief, with summertime evenings being a little warmer and a few more kids out being silly and winter break, Christmas time, things get a little heated up sometimes. I was just curious, how do we utilize our SROs during the winter break and the summertime?
Oh, they accumulate a significant amount of leave during the year because they can't take off while school's in session. When they're not on leave or attending training, we use them in the field. We put them, they supplement patrol, they do bicycle patrols, they can they work the holiday. The task force here at the mall in the area, helping us with the traffic there. The SROs are used when they're not in school, but they do accumulate a significant amount of time through the year. Going to various events, they accumulate comp time, and they can't just take a vacation day or anything during the school year. They have to match that with the cycle. That's part of being an SRO. But by no means are they gone all summer or they gone on winter break. I mean, they take a few days here and there. But anytime that they're not assigned to the school, they do get worked into the regular patrol function. And there's a couple of prior investigative experience that will help out working cases, because there's always a stack of cases that need to be gone through and people will be contacted. That's just the way it is, just the volume. So.
Okay, great. I just wasn't exactly sure that worked, so thank you for
Yes,
that.
Chief, we appreciate all that you and your department does for the city of Mesquite. We know that you're out working every day to try to make the city better. We do realize that you have challenges and our city has challenges, and we're going to continue to work towards education. One of the things I would mention, and you've already brought it up today, is a lot of the people that come in and do some of these things in Mesquite that are violent and otherwise, they're repeat offenders. I think you've already pointed out that these people come in from all these other jurisdictions, and yet we don't that central clearing point to where somebody's done something in another municipality that allows us to know that when they come in and when we do have a situation where we need to take care of it quickly. I appreciate that very much. And I know that you're exactly right. They get turned loose way too quick.
Yes, sir. And to your point, Mr. Mayor, we track everybody who gets arrested. We look at their address and where they come from. 47% of the adults that we arrest for a crime in the city of Mesquite, especially those Part 1 crimes, burglary, robbery, auto theft, have a home address outside of the city of Mesquite. So because those 26 miles of highway give people easy access in and out of our city. And so that is something. Now, with juveniles, about 78% of the kids we arrest come from right here in Mesquite. And most of those are shoplifts and possession of marijuana at school. Those are the two biggest categories than being arrested. But yes, sir, a significant portion of the grown-ups come from outside.
We appreciate all the work that you do.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.